right, so I want to walk you through a sample compare and contrast essay of a television show so that you can kind of see how to do this properly. Notice that our page is set up in MLA format, and then we have our title. Let's start. Making the workplace fun through comedy. Notice that it doesn't say compare and contrast essay. Again, you want to make your titles engaging. Then the introductory paragraph says, TV shows are a #1 source of entertainment during downtime from hectic everyday life. TV shows come in a variety of genres like rom-com, soap operas, comedy, drama, reality, and many more. But after a while, regardless of the genre, all the ideas seem to be taken up and shows begin to resemble one another. Although no matter how much one TV show may seem similar to another, all TV shows create their own identity by putting unique spins on similar aspects. One example of this can be seen in the mockumentary workplace-based shows The Office and Parks and Recreation. Both shows seem to have similar overall humor. However, the comedy differs just enough to set up each show for its own individual success. All right, notice in our intro, we start out broad. We narrow down to the idea of comedy and these shows, and then we get to our thesis statement. This is a student paper. It's not perfect. There's places where I would have liked some transitional phrases or maybe clearer language, but overall it works. It says, in Parks and Recreation and The Office, the same sense of awkward humor is used to provoke laughter from the audience. Both shows utilize long pauses after certain things are said or done to create a cringy comedic effect. This can be seen in The Office when Michael is talking about how great of a boss he is. Michael talks one-on-one with the camera about how people in his office say he's hilarious and then holds up a world's best boss mug saying that he thinks that pretty much sums it up. After a brief pause of holding the mug, he shares that he found it at Spencer's gift and continues holding up the cup as he smiles uneasily and pauses for a few seconds, only blinking. The pause after his statement that he bought the cup of coffee for himself gives the audience time to realize what he said and laugh about the entire awkward situation. From the self-bought gift to his smile to the pause, this awkward interaction causes the audience to feel a little uncomfortable while still finding it all hilarious, adding onto the show's cringy comedy. Okay, so we have a paragraph here that talks about the awkward humor, and this one talks about The Office. Notice The Office was mentioned first here. One thing this student did, they should have put these two shows in opposite order in the topic sentence here, because they mentioned The Office first. Whichever show you mention first in your intro is the show you should be talking about first and mentioning first every single time. Let's look at the next paragraph. Similarly, the same long pause for comedic effect can be seen in Parks and Recreation when Leslie goes to hold a community outreach public forum. Leslie's colleague Tom follows her to the forum as she rambles excitedly about the government. Leslie hypes up the moment of walking through the door saying she needs to be on like the White House press secretary and asks Tom if he's ready, but when she pulls the doors, they don't budge. Without breaking her upbeat tone and facial expression, Leslie states the doors are locked. Both Leslie and Tom stare at the camera for a few moments with a forced smile that the audience can't help but laugh at. These pregnant pauses add more punch to the punchline and also allow the audience time to soak up the comedy similarly to the way The Office executes these awkward pauses. Also, the lack of laugh tracks in both of these instances creates an even more amplified feeling of awkwardness because of the silence accompanying the stares. Okay, notice that in these two paragraphs, we're talking about the same type of comedy or techniques with comedy, and it's a similarity. Let's move on to our next paragraph. Also prevalent among both shows is the use of mildly crude humor. In The Office's first episode, it is very clear that most of the jokes are based around making fun of other characters. One instance of this is when a representative from corporate comes to visit Michael. As the woman is sitting with Michael, he gets a phone call from a man named Todd. Todd is on the speakerphone as he calls the corporate representative Godzillary and asks if the carpet matches the drapes. Michael ends the call right after this phrase, but the damage was already done. This predicament is the epitome of crude humor, blunt and indecent. It is inappropriate and raw, as if Todd had no filter at all when asking such a personal question out loud, and also calling the woman an insulting name right in front of her, even if he didn't know she was listening. This type of humor is prevalent throughout the entire first episode, which also builds upon the aforementioned awkward use of humor. Crude humor and awkward humor go hand in hand because when the character makes such an outlandish comment like Todd did, the audience feels embarrassed for them while also finding it comical to watch others make a fool of themselves. Next paragraph. Mildly crude humor is also noticed in Parks and Recreation. This can be seen when Leslie says that her and Tom work well together since they're both outsiders. To make clear what she means by outsiders, she says privately to the camera that they get along because she is a woman and he is a Libyan. Right after timidly assuming Tom is Middle Eastern, Tom then quickly states to his own camera in a separate room that he's from South Carolina with 100% confidence. While many viewers may find this remark slightly offensive, it is without a doubt matching the definition of crude, making it worthy of at least a giggle. Relating back to The Office, this particular situation is made funnier because of the awkwardness associated with the slightly racist assumption. Furthermore, the way both of these perfectly execute quick responses to these inappropriate comments creates a comical masterpiece. Also, both Parks and Rec and The Office similarly juxtapose the long, awkward pauses with the quick responses when something is inappropriate is beautifully mastered as well. So here we have a paragraph on crude humor about The Office and then how it compares to Parks and Recreation. At this point, we're seeing similarities, and that's awesome. Let's move on to the next paragraph. It says, along with humor-type similarities come humor-type differences, like The Office's jokes being meaner than that of Parks and Recreations. One reason why The Office's humor is mean can be blamed on the main character, Michael, for being so awkward and not knowing how to read social situations. As a result of his social awkwardness, Michael says mean things to other people without truly knowing the impact. For example, Michael calls a woman sir on the phone based on the pitch of her voice. After misgendering the woman and ending the call, he then comments that she's probably a smoker to add insult to injury. If Michael had any type of social awareness, he would have apologized profusely and felt bad, but instead he makes another awkward, mean comment. This joke is without a doubt mean, but also provokes laughter from the cruel yet hilarious nature of the incident. There are many other mean jokes articulated by Michael throughout the episode that it's hard not to see him as the catalyst for the darker humor in this show compared to Parks and Recreation. On the other hand, Parks and Recreation relies more on playful jokes rather than mean ones. As The Office's mean jokes can be blamed on the main character, Michael, Parks and Recreation's playful jokes can be blamed on the main character, Leslie, for her upbeat, ditzy, and energetic personality. Although both main characters seem strikingly similar at first, their slight differences in personality impacts the tone of humor throughout the entire episode. An example of this can be seen when Leslie approaches a fellow government employee, Mark, and calls him a crazy old Polish person, as she explains City Hall is like a locker room to the camera. While some may perceive this to be mean, Leslie executes this crude joke with so much excitement that it's difficult to find the slightest bit insulting. Everything Leslie says is taken as a joke because she's always so happy that no one takes her seriously. If this joke were to be said by Michael in The Office rather than by Leslie, the joke's tone would have felt a little darker because of the personality differences. Okay, notice that in this essay, we've had two similarities, and now we're moving into differences. One thing that I would like to draw your attention to is that this student is, in some paragraphs, is only using one concrete example. You guys need to make sure you're using two. This essay did lose a few points for that, so please make sure you're consistently using two concrete points of view. And now we go into our conclusion. It says, all in all, while both shows are great by themselves, it's undeniable that they share common humor while also staying unique at the same time. Both shows build upon awkwardness in order to make the audience laugh. The only huge humor difference between the shows is that in Parks and Recreation, the humor is more playful with only a few instances being downright mean. On the other hand, The Office's humor is based on mocking and making fun of other characters, creating a meaner humor base. Both shows today are usually not regarded in terms of one another, but back in the days of their pilot episodes, these shows were off to very similar comedic starts with just a few key differences to set them up for their own individual success. and then we have our Works Cited page. For some reason, it pulled it out, but it should be on its own page. Your Works Cited should follow this exact same, the exact same formatting. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know.